What's that?
Pretty perceptive, I didn't even know.
Oh, thanks.
Good evening, everybody. It is 7 o'clock on Monday, August 7th, and we will call this meeting of the Sault Ste. Marie City Commission to order. Do we have a roll call, please?
Mayor Gary.
Here.
Commissioner Bauer.
Here.
Commissioner Baspis Rath. Here. Commissioner Habusta.
Here.
Commissioner Marble.
Here.
Commissioner Miller. Commissioner Rubenstein.
Here.
Commissioner Miller did call and say he would not be able to make this evening's meeting, so we'd need a motion to excuse if you so wish.
So moved.
Support.
Been moved and supported to excuse Commissioner Miller. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. He is excused. If everybody that can rise, will you please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Mayor comments and general announcements. Just have one. I'd like to thank the police chief and fire chief for helping to cook hamburgers and hot dogs at the annual Coast Guard Family Day, which is on August 4th. Part of trying to work together as a government unit to welcome Coast Guard families into our community. And they certainly appreciate it, and we had a great time, I think. Didn't we, Chief Beerling and Chief Miller? So thank you very much for your assistance, and certainly we made some good contacts at that as well, too. Moving on to item B, proclamations and recognitions. City Manager Chapman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. At this time, I will turn it over to Chief Beerling to introduce our new patrol officer, Benjamin Weiss.
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to come here and introduce our newest officer, Benjamin Weiss. Ben graduated from Lake States Academy in June, and we hired him in early July. Ben comes to us from Shelby Township, and he has a Bachelor's of Science in Criminal Justice from Lake State. He's been highly involved in employment here in Sioux and also with our department. While he was in college, he was a bus driver for UPTA and also worked for Lake State University's Public Safety. And for Sault Ste. Marie Police Department, prior to him hiring him as a sworn officer, he was an auxiliary officer for about a year and also one of our crossing guards this year. So we are very excited to have him on board, and we look forward to the service that he brings to our city. And just wanted to take a few minutes to introduce him to you all tonight. Benjamin Weiss.
Thank you very much, Chief, and thank you for your service to the auxiliary, and welcome to the police department. Congratulations. Item C is public comment. Is there anybody in the audience that would like to make any comments on any scheduled agenda items? And I'll put you down as yes, Bill. Bill Overman on parking. Anybody else in the audience that would like to make any comments? At the time that we talk about that, sure. Anybody else? All right. So we will move on into item D, which is the consent agenda. Deputy City Manager Robin Troyer.
Thank you, Mayor. Under the consent agenda, 1, approval of the City Commission meeting minutes of July 17, 2023. Item 2, acceptance of the Historical Development Commission meeting minutes of April 19th. Item 3, acceptance of the Historic Structures Management Committee meeting minutes of June 15th. Item 4, acceptance of the Local Development Finance Authority meeting minutes of December 5th, March 17th, and May 16th. Item 5, acceptance of the Police Fire Pension Board meeting minutes of June 21st. Item 6, acceptance of the Sault Ste. Marie Housing Commission meeting minutes of June 15th. Item 7, resignation and term expiration of Jeff Basista from the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board. Item 8, consideration of Protecting Michigan Pension Grant Award. Item 9, consideration of group rates for private tours of the historic homes. Item 10, consideration of Historical Development Commission appropriation of Osborne Trust funds for Throwback Thursday publication. Item 11, consideration from the Historical Development Commission appropriation of Osborne Trust funds for Sioux Theater. Item 12, consideration of Traffic Control Order 23-05 for the Farmers Market. Item 13, consideration of Traffic Control Order 23-07, no parking zone on Ridge Street near the Fire Hall. Item 14 is consideration of Traffic Control Order 23-08 to address motorized vehicles utilizing downtown sidewalks. And item 15 is approval of the consent agenda items as presented.
Thank you, Deputy City Manager Troyer. Is there any commissioner that would like any of these items removed for individual consideration? Or would you like further explanations on any of them? Commissioner Rubenstein.
Number 14, just some clarification. There's already something out there for non-motorized vehicles, correct? This would just be for adding motorized to that?
So this particular TCO is actually an update to an existing TCO. We currently have a traffic control order that prohibits normal pedal bikes on the sidewalks in this particular area. This would be an update that would also prohibit e-bikes, e-scooters, or any other kind of motorized hip devices that the kids are using nowadays, so. But it is an updated one. Bikes have been prohibited from the sidewalks in this area due to the congestion for a while now, so this is just an update to include those items.
And, I mean, it's pretty hard to enforce. If someone gets in an accident on the sidewalk, do they get a ticket? How does that work?
If there's a bike versus pedestrian incident,
Correct.
I've never dealt with one, I don't know, to tell you the truth. You have any idea? Would we ticket? We would ticket someone, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Commissioner Habusta.
I have a couple questions on the same item. Based upon your answer and the fact that we already have an existing code for pedal bikes, does Michigan penal law, it's 257.662A, Section 1, which says, except as otherwise provided in the section, an individual riding electric bikes is subject to the same requirements under this act as an individual riding a bicycle. Would that not allow us to enforce those rules under that law?
Okay, so your question is?
Basically, I'm wondering if it's already covered.
Dave, you wanna help me out with this one? We were talking about this morning. So this, go ahead. Sorry.
So bikes and e-bikes, they both can, right now under state law, they can use either the sidewalk or the roadway. That's just the way it's set up, but if we have an ordinance or a TCO in place, then we can limit their use in certain areas, is what it
And I would
comes
say,
down to.
we're probably not intimately familiar off the top of our head with the Michigan law that you read. I mean, if there's something you want us to follow up with, we can, but
I'm just wondering if it's already covered. To me, it seems like it's already covered by state law. Between that law and there's another state law that prohibits motor vehicles, and I don't know if that It lists mopeds and motorcycles, but I don't know if that extends to e-bikes and motorbikes, so that was the other part of my question, if that also covers that loss as a person who rides motorcycle, moped, or other motor vehicle excepting motorized vehicles upon a bicycle path or sidewalk regularly laid out and constructed for use of pedestrians, not including crosswalk or driveway, is guilty of a misdemeanor. So I don't want to add more red tape if there's already laws that protect our community from this.
Yeah, again, I'm not familiar with that state law, so I mean, this is the way we've typically done these. If there's an issue with the traffic, or if there's an issue with traffic that we typically issue a traffic control order for, that helps us out, be on the same page at the local level. So regardless if there is a state law, we typically do put in traffic control orders to maintain our traffic.
Okay, then my only other question would be, has our DDA been consulted on this decision?
I don't believe so, no.
No. I mean, what we were doing was just updating the one from the non-motorized pedal bike one up to including the e-bikes now, so. And we kinda flipped it, we didn't take the bikes out, we just said it was only for pedestrian use and for motorized vehicles for handicapped persons, so.
Right.
So we kinda took the bike thing out of it, we just said the area was for pedestrian use.
Right.
Can I ask a follow-up to that? Was there any consideration that the state lists different levels as far as those vehicles are concerned? Was there any consideration at all to limit it to certain levels of vehicles? I think they have 3 different classes at the state level.
Yeah, we had a whole big spreadsheet that we had, all the laws that we were looking at, so we were
Oh.
trying to,
TVs are on. You want me to pull it up, Dave?
yeah, go ahead. Hopefully the chief can help.
Kelly, we throw my, oh, no, you can't, cause I gotta plug it in.
I mean, we had the same concern too, if we were already covered, but, when you go back and look at the laws, it's all similar for just when we did it for the bicycles, so. That's why I said, we just kinda, instead of saying bikes, e-bikes and stuff, we just said that the area was only for pedestrian use and,
Okay, thank you.
So if you want, they did have a cheat sheet, more or less, that kinda highlights what's permissible and what's not, based on state law, correct?
yep. Wanted to make sure that they could ticket people if we did have incidents there, so.
Correct. So we had bicycles, e-bikes, e-scooters, skateboards, and non-electric skateboards, and some of the definitions out there. And we could send this to the commission if you want us to follow up on anything, but we did kinda look at everything.
Does that answer your questions, or did you want that removed?
No, I'm comfortable with leaving it in. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions on any other items? Commissioner Bauer?
Yes, I move that we pass tonight's consent agenda fully and completely.
Support.
It's been moved and supported that we pass the consent agenda. Any questions or comments? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Consent agenda passed unanimously. Moving on into item E, special orders of business. City Manager Chapman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Up first for commission consideration is a follow-up from the item that was on the commission during the last meeting. This is the item regarding a alleyway vacation over on West Fourth Avenue area. So we ran through the public hearing during the last meeting. We don't have to do the public hearing. The direction from the commission the last time was to table the item for this meeting while the commission members did some review of their own, talk to the neighbors, whatever the case may be. In this motion, we are recommending to do partial vacations. we stuck with the recommendation that we gave to the commission at the last meeting.
Okay, thank you, city manager. Anybody have any questions, comments for the city manager? Planning Director Freeman is behind the glass, so I'm sure we could get him out of here if we had any questions for him. Sure. Commissioner Rubenstein.
I guess just some more clarification, because it doesn't seem like this is necessarily fully solving the issue.
So from our perspective, it solves two issues. And I'm just gonna pull up the aerial map really quick. That's probably the best one. So with the parcel vacation, it solves two things. This property owner, I don't remember exactly the distances, but let's say it's right here, would get this back portion of the public alley. This gets her out of the encroachment issue that she has right now by having the structure in the right of way. By splitting it as a partial vacation, this ensures the driver or the property owner here has continued access to the driveway that's over here that he has a private use agreement with the city for. So while it may not solve, while it may not make one particular neighbor happy over the other one, from our standpoint, it does rectify the two issues.
Thank you.
Anybody else have any questions, comments? Mr. Bauer.
You know what I would really like to see, but it's not gonna happen? I would like to see, Mr. Lewis and, Ms. Bergeron get together and come to an agreement that is amenable to both of them, and then come back to us and say, this is what we would like, you know, before we act on it. Because really, before we, before we act on this, what we have here at this moment today is actually, I think, not even a planning commission issue or such, more like an enforcement issue on an alley that has not been vacated, so it's still owned by the city, which Mr. Lewis theoretically, and only in theory, can't park on, and Mrs. Bergeron not happy about that, right? And that there's a broader issue of neighbors not getting along. Well, he blows snow on my, in my yard, his rocks are here, there. We heard this at the public hearing. You know what I mean? I wish that we could have a situation where two neighbors could sit down and amicably, settle their differences and come to us with a solution that they both like. Because whether we pass this or whether we don't, one of them is gonna be PO'd. And there's not a right or a wrong answer. But why, because it's really their issue. They're the only people in this community, and really the only people in the whole wide world that care about this alley vacation, So you would think that they could, because I would bet that if they actually wanted to, that they could come to a solution that's good for both of them and then come back to us and say, can you pass this, right? That's not gonna happen again, but I mean, I'm just speaking that that's what I would like to see, The end.
Thanks, Commissioner. Any other questions or comments? Commissioner Bosbus-Rath.
Okay, I'll chime in on that one. I agree with you, Commissioner Bauer. It would be great if they could, clearly, if this passes, it's not gonna benefit one neighbor, well, it'll benefit one neighbor over the other, to an extent. But if you look at the picture, it kind of makes sense to split it halfway, give her the one that's closest to her, give him the one that's closest to him, and so be that. It's tough because if you guys could just talk it through, you know, normally that would be you sit down and, okay, let's do it this way, we'll part it halfways, bring it back to the commission, that type of thing, and I understand you guys are not talking and it's not amicable. But to me, I think it should be just split. Your half on your side, his half on his side, and just be done. That's how I feel, but I don't know how the other commissioner feels, but thank you.
Thanks, Commissioner. Anybody, Commissioner Habusta?
When someone has a private use agreement as agreed upon, how long does that last for? Do we have a time frame for the private use agreement? And then what would happen that section of the alley that the private use agreement is on is not being split currently? Is that correct? And would it be split when the private use agreement is no longer in use?
So couple things, I'm gonna look to Dave to see if we get a nod. So typically our practice with private use agreements, they stay with the land, correct? So our private use agreements run with the land. So what that means is it doesn't necessarily stay between the city and Jody Bospis Rath. It stays with that property. So when it does change hands, it automatically transfers over to the new property owner. So that's called running with the land. In this particular case, Kelly, we throw it back up on the map again, or up on the screen. So typically when we vacate an alley, which we do fairly regularly, Kelly, knock on the window twice if I'm wrong, we typically split the line right down the middle. Half goes to this property side, the other half goes to this property side. If we were to do that in this particular case, we're splitting up this driveway on this side too. So instead of doing a latitudinal split, instead of splitting it this way, we're splitting more of a vertical split this way and retaining the alleyway up here so we have the private use agreement. Now with the private use agreement too, even though they're in forever with the running with the land, there is a clause in there that if the city so deems that we have to, we can cancel and terminate those things. But again, to the stated issue coming from the property owner, Ms. Bergeron, was the shed encroachment on the public alley. So again, our recommendation by splitting it north-south and vacating this back half of the public alley solves her stated issue of the encroachment and retains his use of the driveway.
So if I could clarify, so his part of the alley will not be vacated, but there's a private use agreement involved.
Correct. So
So she would still have legal right to cross that piece of property.
correct.
And so what would happen if he refused to move his vehicles or something and she needed to get through? How do we address that?
We would probably try to resolve it in a manner of kind of what Commissioner Bauer was saying, where we're starting to knock on doors and trying to make connections so we can get it resolved. And if it's a short time thing, it ain't a big deal, but if something bigger happens, that's a different conversation. But that's how we would solve that.
So the proposed split is not ideal, but it does give her the property she needs to cure the encroachment in the back. And she would still have right to legal access across his driveway.
Correct. Because there'd still be a public alley.
Although they're, sure. Commissioner Marvel?
At the last meeting, didn't we discuss the fact that that driveway was illegally put in there?
It was
I
put in by prior owner, I think,
Yeah.
before you bought it.
But it wasn't legalized.
So I think you're stemming from the reason for the private use agreement. So yeah, so if if the previous property owner did put in a driveway on a public alleyway without proper authorization, if we came across it and it really wasn't a huge significant issue where it's impeding a lot of other interests, then yes, our solution is to give them a private use agreement to legalize it, to which there is a private use agreement on this one. It was brought forward, winter-ish. So I mean, that issue itself has been rectified. The driveway is permissible at this point.
Thank you.
With a private use agreement that he has, are there any notices that she would have to give him needing access that we know of?
Not that I'm aware of, and I'm
Okay.
not sure there are or not. It's probably I would assume it is a standard private use agreement that we have, just a template. It probably doesn't have anything like that in there.
But the law does protect her legal right of access across that piece of property.
Correct.
So by chance, if she did have to get back there, she by all means could.
Correct.
Okay, yeah, he just might not let her. And then it would be another issue. Okay.
All right, any other questions, comments? Certainly as,
Can I,
sure,
I
Commissioner Bauer.
realize we're not having a public hearing here, but can I ask Mrs. Bergeron a question?
Yeah, don't see why not, sure.
How often do you need to access through that back alley, in your opinion?
Once it becomes mine, I could access it whenever I need to, but I haven't been able to because they park on it all the time. He's got the south side of the alley, which has the same frontage that I would be given. He could park there or in his empty lot next to his garage. He doesn't need that. If you're gonna split it evenly, even if we're not here in 5 years from now, either of us, the next owners are gonna have the same problem. If you just divide it evenly, it would solve all the problems for both.
If I could make one other comment or an observation.
Sure, Commissioner, yep.
Because with, if you were to vacate this alley as normal and split it north-south, then actually Ms. Bergeron's issue would still be solved in regards to being over with her, was it a shed, right? Or with the shed. That would still be solved, and yet she would have, something else that she would want, which is, access up that, up that alley, although you still didn't, I don't think you answered my question though, as to how often you access that or try to access
I
it,
don't
or,
right now. It's an
Okay.
alley. I was told by Mr. Freeman that it's an unmaintained alley and nobody's supposed to use it.
right.
So until it becomes my property, and
But-
there's an easement on it that Groveland still,
Because my viewpoint on this is, like, this alley is similar to a lollipop, all right? Not a like a dum-dum around one, but like a, one of the old school, right? And, normally, if you had two people fighting over a lollipop, you would split it down the middle, and they would both get a sweet part, and they would both get part of the stick, right? Which is the normal way to vacate an alley. But with what the city is proposing here, then Mrs. Bergeron gets the stick and Mr. Lewis gets the sweet end of the lollipop, because that's the part that's coming off the street, the access part, because her part is not accessible, right? And that's really, I think that what Mrs. Bergeron is asking for here is just to treat this as we would any other vacation, which I realize this is not any other vacation, because, you have what we would call extenuating circumstances here, Still, I wish they could figure it out on their own. I don't think that's ever gonna happen, but, I'm just saying that I can understand her viewpoint as far as just wanting it to be treated like we would treat anything else, And because that is the way that we normally proceed, and she's just asking for normal procedure, I would be more apt to, and I'm not going to make a motion, by the way, but I would be more apt to lean in that direction for that reason.
Thanks, Commissioner. Any other questions or comments? I guess, playing devil's advocate too, I don't know, are you Mr. Lewis? I don't know if, he had any comments too, to give fair time, but when he bought the home, I'm sure he bought it with the anticipation that that driveway was his too, so I don't know what kind of legal work he had done. So there are two sides to this, and I'm not sure what happens to the private use agreement that we approved if we try to split it the way you're proposing.
The way I'm proposing?
No, the way that
Oh.
Commissioner Bauer had said, if we did north-south.
Well, I mean, that's not the way I'm proposing, that's
No,
the
no,
way
I'm
it's
just-
normally done, as was
correct.
explained to us.
But there's no way to do that with the agreement that we approved.
I mean, we would
Prior.
cancel the
Okay.
agreement, because then at that point, if it was a split, east-west, excuse me. If we were to split it the other way, we would be dictating property that's not our property anymore.
All right, all good comments. Any other comments, questions? Anybody would like to make the motion to approve the resolution vacating part of east-west alley between lots 1 to 4? Seeing none, it looks like it stalls out. So, moving on into item F, communications. City Manager Chapman.
Hey, Ms. Mayor. Just real quick. So on the last item, it doesn't go through, it's not the commission's desire for us to bring this back, correct? Because this essentially, if there's no action on it tonight, I just want to be clear on this, if there's no action on this tonight, it's not going to come back on the next agenda or an agenda after that. This issue is tabled permanently.
Correct.
I don't know, I mean, doesn't there have to be some sort of resolution to this issue somehow, some way? I mean, because other than that, if we don't resolve it, does that mean that Mr. Lewis is continually legally or illegally parking?
Legally.
Okay, well, that's fine by me. I mean, I don't have a problem with it, obviously. Why would I? I don't live there, but,
And from a planning perspective, the encroachment doesn't go resolved, and Kelly's not here to necessarily correct me otherwise, but it's probably a minor issue at best, Kelly. Knock on the window once, maybe. There we go. So I mean, that's, yes, if, if there's no action tonight, the issue gets put to bed. The encroachment remains, Mr. Lewis continues to park through the private use agreement on the driveway. And if the commission's fine with that, I'm fine with that. I just want to make sure we're all on the same page, that you won't see this on the next agenda or anything like that.
Certainly something the property owners might want to pursue, because I'm sure it, I don't know if it would impact marketability, but it'll be an issue if they ever go to sell. People will want those cleared up, so.
Okay. All right. If
All
there's
right.
nothing else.
Commissioner Marvel.
I'll make a motion.
Two.
So, okay, we're going back to E, special orders of business. You're gonna make you're making the motion to approve the included resolution vacating part of the east-west alley between lots 1 and 4 inclusive and lots 5 and 25 non-inclusive. GG Scranton's addition with retention of utility easements.
Yes.
Is there support? So motion has been made. Is there support? All right, item dies. Moving on into F, Communications, City Manager Chapman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Up next for commission communication is a report from Officer Trevor Adkins, our school resource officer. I'm not sure if Chief Bierling is going to attend with him too, but he just kind of wants to highlight, this was our first full school year with the SRO partnership between the city and the school district. Trevor was selected out of a recruitment process. He spent the entire year there. Spoiler alert, he did a fantastic job all year long, but he'll kind of get more into that in a little bit. And then I have some comments from the superintendent I'll read afterwards. So with
Good evening,
that,
officer.
Hey, good evening. Thank you, Commissioner and Mayor. I'll try to, I wrote it out 3 pages here, otherwise I'd be talking for a while. Anybody from the school can tell you that. I'm really good at getting up there and getting carried away. So I'll read through this and I'll take an opportunity to answer any questions that you guys have as well. So good evening. First, I would like to thank Mayor Don Gary, City Commissioners, City Manager Brian Chapman, Superintendent Amy Kronemeyer, Police Chief Wesley Bierling, and the Sault Ste. Marie Area School District for making the School Resource Officer position possible. The 2022 and 23 school year was my first year as the SRO, and it certainly did not disappoint. This year was full of positive challenges, opportunities, and interactions with school staff, students, parents, and guardians. I'd like to take a few minutes and provide you with a brief report of my first year as the SRO. I started the school year by helping the middle school and high school campuses reconfigure their drop-off and pick-up locations to promote safety of students, staff, and the public. With the help of the city engineering department, we developed a temporary solution that alleviated unwanted stress on the local roadway and allowed the school property to absorb the traffic burden. This change promoted safer street crossings for students and less congestion for the bus drop-off and pickup. The school district and I made school safety and security a top priority. We secured approximately $228,000 in grant funding through the state of Michigan to promote safety and security through the school safety improvements. Additionally, we secured $154,000 in grant funding through the Michigan State Police to help fund the SRO position. I conducted various building tours and walkthroughs with police and fire departments, focusing on building layouts and safety planning. To keep staff informed, I created a monthly school safety update, which was emailed to all school district staff. This update includes concerns and school safety projects within the district. We labeled buildings and hallways to assist with navigation within the building for all responders and guests. Using grant funds, we were able to secure building site assessments from a school security firm and building critical incident mapping. We were able to assist with forming a school-wide emergency response team and a medical response team to assist with incidents that arise within the buildings. I helped draft new policies for the district emergency operations plan and collaborated with various school staff and stakeholders to implement this response plan. In conjunction with the Chippewa County Emergency Management Office, we coordinated a mock drill using the district emergency response plan to train school personnel on responding to an incident and a building-wide evacuation. I handled approximately 155 calls for service within the school. This number reflects incidents where a complaint number was assigned. Examples of these calls for service are threats, assaults, possession of a vape or other tobacco-related product, well-being checks, 911 hang-up calls, truancy, and social media-related complaints. This number does not reflect the countless number of times I assisted staff and students that did not require a complaint number to be assigned. I participated in various classroom readings and safety presentations in both elementary schools on a regular basis. I assisted with various class presentations on topics such as alcohol and drug prevention and school safety. I provided security at school athletic events and dances throughout the year. I had the opportunity to lead the high school homecoming parade this past year. I helped with school field day events, field trips, and holiday parades. I interacted with students in the hallway and lunchrooms on a daily basis. I gave several training presentations to administrators, teachers, bus drivers, and other various school staff members. Some of the training topics included 800 megahertz radio operations, safety and security, tabletop exercises, bus safety, and active violence. I was fortunate to attend several training courses to enhance my SRO skills and capabilities. Examples of these courses included 800 megahertz radio operator instructor, basic SRO school, child forensic interviewing, the Michigan Behavior Threat Assessment, basic, advanced, and instructor courses, and active shooter response. I am scheduled to attend several additional training courses in the near future, such as advanced SRO, the Michigan State Police Team School, and safety care training. In summary, as my first year as an SRO was a great learning opportunity and helped me advance my skills as a police officer. Each day I'm in the schools, I further my department's goal of providing a positive and meaningful law enforcement contact to all students and staff of the school district. In year 2, I will continue to serve the city of Sault Ste. Marie and the Sault Ste. Marie Area School District to the best of my ability with safety, security, and community in mind. I'd like to thank everyone who has made this position possible and continues to make this position possible. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any questions or comments from the commission?
I just got one really quick, just, I
City
don't know,
manager.
commission. I know. The superintendent was supposed to be here tonight, so she sent me a text. I think she's dropping her son off at college, so. From the superintendent, I greatly appreciate the partnership with the city on many projects, but especially the SRO implementation this year. Our continuous commitment to my vision of student mental, physical, and social safety has improved significantly through our work with Trevor Atkins, Chief Beerling, and Chief Miller. It is with gratitude and the utmost respect that I share in the highlights in SRO Atkins' report, and I look forward to another great year at Sioux Schools. The Sioux is a great place to learn, work, and thrive.
Thank you very much. Good comments. Commissioner Bosses-Rath, you had your hand up.
Great report. Thank you
Thank
for
you.
everything you do. I do have a couple kids. Actually, no, one is leaving for college, but I have another one still there, and the other one's a baby. But I know this job from dealing with our own SRO. It's time-consuming. It's mentally draining sometimes. The kids love you, and thank you. Much needed. Fully support this.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Commissioner Bauer?
Just a quick question, and it's not because I wasn't paying attention, because I was. Did you say 155 complaints? Was that the number?
Yeah, that is correct. That's of complaints that I actually pulled
Wow,
out.
and that's in,
Incident number.
what, like 180 school days in a
That-
year?
that's
So
correct.
basically every day. You may not know the answer to this, but how many was the most you had to handle in one day?
Probably 5 that I can
Wow.
remember was one of the busier days, yeah.
I'm very impressed by your report and by what you do, so thank you very much. We appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
Commissioner Habuzda?
I just want to echo Commissioner Bosbus-Rath, and as a parent within the district, we are just blessed to have you within our school district, and it really gives us a peace of mind knowing that you're there patrolling our district, so thank you very much.
Thank you.
Not much more I can say, but thank you very much for your service. It's a great report, like to see it, and glad we have the commitment of the school district and the city to keep moving forward with the school resource officer. Certainly, it's needed, and we appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
So, thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
Yep,
Thank you.
great job. All right, moving on into item G, which is business items. City Manager Chapman is gonna throw it back at me.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The mayor requested a
right.
conversation on downtown parking, sorry.
So, I did request a discussion on downtown parking because I think we have all received a lot of complaints. It's probably not about the parking itself, but the enforcement of the parking fines after 5 o'clock and on the weekends. I think it's, and when we talked about it a year ago, I guess it was, with the fees, we all understood that it was 24-hour policy, and I think that we had thought that it was not, we didn't have the staff to enforce it 24 hours and on the weekends. I think it's, in my personal opinion, it's excessive to, you know, you can't go to Music at the Park without having to run back and plug the meter again. You can't go to church on Sunday morning without having to go back and plug the meter again. We've had a lot of complaints from the Stars group because whenever they have a show or whenever they are practicing, they can't park and without having to go back and plug the meter. And there are probably hundreds of different topics. I know that in our walk through Boyne City, beautiful town, growing, they did not have parking meters at their downtown establishments, and that's a totally different situation, probably a different city, but I think it's worth a discussion, and I personally am opposed to enforcement after hours and weekends. I think we're a tourist-related community, and you know, I think that really does inhibit growth. I think one of the best stories I ever heard, or anecdotes maybe, was one of my coworkers said, "Why wouldn't you shop at the big box stores? You can go in there and you have free parking, and you can use their bathroom at any time, and you don't have some of the problems that you have in going to a downtown store." And I totally disagree, but you know, some of the things that we put in place are prohibitive. And that was really the extent of my questions and comments. And I know we have Bill Oberman, who has had a store downtown for as long as I can remember walking and going into the store to buy shoes and jeans and everything else. So, Bill, would you like to come up and make some comments if you would? Would you please come up for it's for the people at home, sorry. It's, we have a microphone, you know, we're on this big TV network, and
Okay.
the thousands viewing want to hear from
I'm
you.
very definitely in agreement with you on after hours. It makes sense. We are a tourist town. But what about us local businessmen who are being chased away their customers because they can't understand the system and it's not working? From the day it was started, it was broken. I've paid my family's paid taxes here for 110 years. We now pay a DDA fee and we pay for our snow plowing. What are you doing for us? I mean, seriously. You know, we need help too. You know, the guy next door in the gym, there are people that are leaving his gym because they can't take the parking there and they're working out. They come out and they got a ticket. And they're quitting his gym to go up on the hill because it is free parking. So we need some help too, guys. And there's a lot of very upset merchants and businesses and people because of it. And you know, and old folks don't carry a phone with an app. Some of them don't even have flip phones. And those are my customers too, that get ticketed. So I think we would like to meet with a group of you guys, and we'll get some people, and we would like to meet together and say, you know, let's figure something out that's gonna work. Questions?
Any questions for Bill? Sure, Commissioner Bosses Wrath.
Just a quick question, Bill. What is a good idea from you? Do you think no meters at all? Do you have any?
Well, before that lot came into effect, the new lots that are really a mess anyway, they just made sure it was 2 hours. They marked tires, they recorded it somehow. They never wrote tickets unless someone was in there for 2 hours. They didn't have to have money in the meter.
The 2-hour parking.
And there's 2-hour parking in one spot, and then there's meters in one spot, and then there's no signage in another spot on the side streets. So what are we supposed to be doing? I just told people park on Ashman, it's 2 hours free, clog Ashman if you have to. And I also tell people to pull the back of my store because that's private property and she can't ticket it.
Commissioner Bauer, do you have a question for Mr. Oberman or for?
No, just in
comments?
general,
Okay.
whenever Mr. Oberman is done.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions for Bill? Thank you very much. Appreciate
Yeah, I'd like to get together and see if we can't get some groups together so we can find something that's gonna work for everybody. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Bill. I think at one point in time, didn't we have a citizen group of parking, some kind of advisory group?
There used to be a parking commission.
Okay. Commissioner Bauer, you had comments?
Well, no, just to answer, yeah, there was a parking commission, that was quite a while ago. And a lot of what they dealt with, I remember at the time too, was with the new parking garage, although not fully completely. First of all, before I even say anything, I am so vehemently opposed to the enforcement in the off hours. And they're not off hours if they're enforcing them, but I would, first of all, move that we end the enforcement of those parking regulations, specifically the 2-hour on Ashman and Portage, and the meters as well, effective immediately between the hours of 5 p.m. and, what was it before, 8 a.m., 9 a.m., 9 a.m.? 8 a.m., and also on weekends.
Everybody understand the motion? It's
Support.
been supported.
Second, go ahead.
Any questions or comments on that motion?
Just a quick question.
Sure.
Actually, do I have
go
to wrap it up when I make the motion? Because I had a lot to say about it. I could actually talk about this ad nauseum about my personal experience with negative effects of the enforcement of these parking regs. I'm not going to do that.
Do you want to do it before we have a vote, or?
What's that?
Do you want to do it before we vote, or?
Well, if I think it will affect the vote, then yeah. You know what I mean?
Let me let Commissioner Rubenstein, I think, have a comment, and then we can come back to you.
Okay, sure.
Bless you.
Just a quick question on that. How does that stop the issue of people who live on those streets from just parking there overnight and clogging things up?
So in general, there is a overnight ban on parking, was it 2 a.m. to, only in the winter, excuse me. Only in the winter is that there. So in non-winter months, no, it would not stop that.
So when you say stop enforcement of all, then would it be, are there exceptions to that enforcement? Abusers of overnight parking,
No, because I just want to see it go back to the way that it was prior to the enforcement after regular business hours, and on weekends. I will also say, though, that I think that we have other parking problems that we're not at all addressing with this. The only reason that I would like to see an end to this, and the reason that I would like to see it now, is, and we've only got like 1 month, maybe 6 weeks if you include leaf trips, as far as tourism goes. And, do you really want that to be the taste that people leave Sault Ste. Marie with in their mouth, is that they had to pay their parking ticket because they went to see Music in the Park or something, or they went to do anything else, and they got ticketed for being there for 2 hours and 5 minutes in a 2-hour zone. I will also say that I had an employee who got a 2-hour parking ticket and later ended up proving with the use of the Life 360 app that she was not parked in that space for 2 hours, that she was not in the area for 2 hours. And I can't imagine that that's the only time that this has happened to somebody. We've seen, in social media, and I mean, who wants that? As far as, if we had Linda Hoth in here, I'm sure Linda Hoth would say, yeah, I don't want to see that. I talked with Linda Hoth about it, not to put words in her mouth, you know what I mean? But I'm just saying that, how good is that for, the Convention and Visitors Bureau, that we're ticketing people all the time? I'm just saying. I mean, I've had employees get tickets that I have paid, and, because, well, they're not making that much money. They work for me, right? But
no comment.
I mean, no, but, and it got old really fast. I will say one other thing about this. When this first started, And there were some people who approached me with an article that they read in the evening news. And I thought that article was false information. I didn't even know I didn't even think that was true, right? Because I don't remember what the deal was at the time, but I mean, it's not anything that we voted on specifically to do, which is why, nor did we have to, because it's just enforcement of a law, and we don't have to vote on that, and that's the way that goes. But I mean, my daughter got a ticket as she was working the production aspects of a Stars show and couldn't get out, to plug the meter in the middle of a show. And I know she's not the only one. I mean, it's just all over the place, and it's just ridiculous. I do think, though, like I said, that we have a broader parking issue that we really need to address. What I'm proposing today is a quick fix for for tourism and everything over the next 6 weeks and such.
Right.
It's not really solving the bigger problem, and I'll be the first
Correct.
one to admit that. But
Sure.
that doesn't mean we shouldn't act on it right now.
Correct. Thanks, Commissioner. Commissioner Habusta.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Commissioner Bauer, I think I completely agree, and I'm the last guy to usually compare our community with other communities, but in this case, I'm going to do so. One of our neighboring communities, Petoskey, has actually received national recognition. It's spoken at national conferences with a presentation called "Is Parking Management a Hospitality Service?" Of course it is. When we begin to look at our parking from that mindset, it begins to change exactly how we do things and how we enforce things. They enforce things with ambassadors, recognizing that these parking personnel are the first people that oftentimes tourists and other visitors to their community recognize and have interaction with. I think we would be well served to look at this example to see how we can put it into play within our community. With all that said, I'm concerned with the motion that you put on the table, and that by removing 2-hour parking along Ashman Street, we allow overnight parkers and people who live on Ashman Street to park in those spots. And as I spoke to one business owner today, he was concerned if we do that his parking spots, not his parking spots, he didn't say that, but that parking spots in front of his place of business would then be clogged with residents who would park there for the night and not move their vehicle in the morning, thus clogging up parking spots within that could be used for downtown visitors and shoppers and people taking advantages of our wonderful downtown. So I'm a little concerned with the quick reaction in that aspect about removing that 2-hour parking along Ashman. Thank you.
Thanks, Commissioner. Any other questions or comments? I'm certainly in favor of the motion, and I think it will help us in the short term, as Commissioner Bauer so aptly said. I think we've got a limited window for the rest of this tourist season, and I think that maybe there are other solutions on the horizon, but I think we need to take care of this. And like you, I had no idea we were going to start enforcing after 5 o'clock. I was blindsided a bit too. So, any other thoughts, questions, comments? Mr. Rubenstein.
I do agree with Commissioner Habusta on that, on the overnight. I just think, I agree with what we're proposing right now, but I just want to make sure we address it. We have tenants that live on Ashman and Portage, and I can see how that could become an issue down the road, so I support what we're proposing, but I just want to make sure we're going to continue to address it, because it could cause some unintended consequences.
Good comments.
I have a question
So-
for Commissioner Rubenstein.
Sure, Commissioner
So
Bauer.
where are they parking now?
So on Ashman, our tenants,
Yeah.
we have a lot behind, and then we pay for a couple of them to live in the, park in the parking garage, but theoretically, if this passes as is, they wouldn't need the parking garage passes, they could just park on the street. And what we don't want is then all of a sudden, spots are taken up in front of businesses.
The mover is humming, so.
Well, I mean, do we then want to do, because there's not really a whole lot of business going on overnight that I can think of off the top of my head, you know,
Even
2
if-
AM to 6.
Even if it's just like 2 to 4 AM, it takes care of the issue.
Yeah, because if you, the way you stated it now, if you did 8 AM to 5 PM was enforcement hours only. Let's say Sherilyn, the parking, or the parking enforcement officer starts at 8 AM. They technically have till 10 AM to move those vehicles, because by the time Sherilyn gets down there, notices them, because they're not metered or anything like that, she has to physically see the car there parked, start the clock, and then wait those 2 hours before she could ticket them. So if you do it from 8 to 5, the first ticket will be out the door at 10 AM.
Well, then maybe we need to, you know, maybe we need to have some sort of an overnight, and possibly in a second motion or an amendment to this, an overnight ban from what? 2 to 4? Would that make any,
Just on the enforcement side of it, that would be, 2 to 4 would be difficult per se, because Sherilyn doesn't start at 4 o'clock in the morning. We want her on the street at the busy time to ensure traffic is moving. You know, it would be on our officers, the actual patrol officers, to enforce that. And that could be spotty at best. It's not like we could dedicate them or tell them just to do that. They'll have other calls throughout the night. So I
But
mean, that is an option, but it's not a, I'm just saying that's not a, we can't dedicate nighttime patrol officers to that type of activity.
It at least
Commissioner Rubenstein?
gives it some teeth, though. If there is a habitual abuser, it could be addressed then. If there is that ban, correct? From 2 to 4.
I mean, and, no, because if I park in that time, if I live downtown, I'm gonna park on the street at night, the way it's proposed now. If I do it on Monday, I get a ticket. If I do it on Tuesday, I get a ticket. If I do it on Wednesday, I get a ticket. So I mean, if that person, especially if they don't wanna pay the tickets, they're just gonna crumble them up, and it's not like we repossess their,
what was the official policy prior to this?
with the nighttime one. I'm
With
not-
all of it, because, you know, I wouldn't mind returning to that.
See, this was, this kind of conversation was exactly some of the issues that we had with the older system. So, step back a while ago, you had parking lots that were divvied up between 2 hour, 6 hour, 8 hour, 10-hour parking. You didn't really address these nighttime kind of issues. There were a lot of inconsistencies and lack of standardization for the parking, for the parking lots, and all that stuff. So as we redid the parking lots, we looked to take all those things away because they were a mess from the enforcement standpoint. And then we had on top of it 3 or 4 different parking meters that allowed you to do this during this and do this during that. And so we've tried to consolidate it to be as not confusing and try to solve some of these issues. Parking is one thing that I have come to experience. You're not gonna make everybody happy one way or another. Because there's too many different desires, needs, thoughts, whatever the case may be, that you're just not gonna be able to satisfy. The parking issues that we had that partly led the DDA, or from parking moving from the DDA to the police department before I got up here, was a lot of different policies. It was almost by parking spot. I mean, it was so out there and all across the board, everywhere. It was impossible to even know what was going on from any standpoint. So we've tried to consolidate, we've tried to standardize. We went from 4 meters, now we just have 1 permit and an overnight 24-hour permit for tenant dwellings. So
But-
we've tried to consolidate these.
All that aside, I thought we had said when we had approved this, that we weren't changing, it had always been 24-hour.
Correct.
So what was the impetus for the city to hire somebody to enforce it after 5 and on the weekend? So that's what we're trying to take away.
It was the complaints that we got that came in from traffic not being moving at night and all these other things too. So as we were trying to satisfy other business owners and other people in downtown, we added on more enforcement later in the evening to try to keep traffic moving. And that's what you got, that's what I'm saying, you've got multiple different needs within the downtown. You've got people that need employee parking, you got people that need 15, 20-minute parking, you got people that need longer parking, you got tourist parking, you got some things metered, some things not metered, you got permit parking. So we're trying to address the issues that come up, but like I'm saying, there are people out there that aren't at this particular meeting that get upset when vehicles aren't moving along every 2 hours. On the weekends, you can park right in front of the tourist section for 8 hours. Whether you're a local or you're a tourist or not, you can park your car there all day long. It doesn't really shuffle out there. So as we were trying to solve other issues, like I said, this is the downfall of parking. This is the joy and love of parking. As you try to solve issues here, the system changes and you make some upsets over there. So I mean, if there is a, I'm just gonna speak on the bigger, broader, the motion is the motion. If there's a bigger, broader issue and the commission wants to wrap themselves around parking and where we're at and what we're doing and where we need to go, and you guys can give us direction and clarity on what is parking actually supposed to be for, and then we can base our programs on that. What's the intentions of the commission? And we can bring in the EDDA and some other people on it too, but, and I mean, the million-dollar question is, what is parking supposed to be for? And I guarantee you, every 6 of you up here probably have a different answer for that too.
Commissioner Bass's wrath.
Is it possible to have those no overnight parking signs on, like, in front of Ashman Street, in front of Portage Street, the spaces in front of the buildings and the rentals, where if it just says no overnight parking, whether, you know, they're downtown and they're at the establishments till 2:30, they're moving at 2:30, they're not overnight. Could that be an issue or a resolution that solves at least the no overnight parking spots?
You done? Okay, thank you. Commissioner Rubenstein. No, I'm just,
So I'm bringing up that point where I actually fall on it short term, is I agree with Commissioner Bauer, but we need to address it at a broader scale after that. So I
Correct.
agree with that. I agree with that, what's being proposed short term. I just want to bring up that as a, something that we need to think about, but
and I think we could talk till midnight on this topic, but I think we need, I like the idea of the stopgap that, the motion that is on the table. And I do think, as Mr. Oberman said, we need to get together with the business owners, DDA, and come up with a solution. Obviously, we fell short. I know that what you brought to us last time, we tweaked and changed and probably didn't commit to, but we do need to have a more comprehensive, business-oriented parking solution. Parking is supposed to move parking, and the business owners need to be a part of that too, because a lot of sometimes their employees are the offenders that clog the parking as well, and we have to have solutions to all this, so. But that's a longer-term situation, and I think I am confident that the motion that's on the table will help out in the short run while we formulate a much better parking plan. So the motion is on the table that Commissioner Bauer made, Commissioner Bassas-Rath supported. Any other questions or comments in regard to the motion? I think we'll go with a roll call vote on this so we can have clarity. Please, a roll call.
Mayor
Please.
Gary,
Yes.
Commissioner Bauer,
Yes.
Commissioner Bassas-Rath,
Yes.
Commissioner Habusta,
No.
Commissioner Marble,
Yes.
Commissioner Rubenstein.
yes.
Motion did pass 5-1. Thank you very much. And do you want to make a motion to refer back to city administration, a strategy to work
Yes,
with the
I
public?
would like to refer back to the city administration, the parking issue.
Support.
Any questions or comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passed unanimously. Thank you very much. Good discussion. Thank you, Bill. Commissioner Huista.
Before we move from this agenda item, I'd like to make a motion to ban downtown parking from 2 AM to 6 AM.
Okay, there's a motion on the table to ban parking from 2 AM.
To 6 AM, Monday through Friday.
All downtown parking?
Excuse me, parking along Ashland Street.
Is there support? Looks like we don't have a second. Thank you. All right, we'll move on into H, city manager announcements and updates.
I
Looks pretty
don't,
blank.
I know I don't have anything this time because I had to run out of the office last week.
We've been
but
busy, yeah.
The projects, the bigger projects are moving forward. I guess the one to point is the Carboy dock right now. We just tied off the corner of the new seawall to the hydro dam, so it is fully enclosed. They'll be going through and finishing up the tiebacks to the other wall and then starting to fill and cap that in. So that's moving forward. And then just as a reminder, we do have our dignitaries from Boyne City coming up this Wednesday. They will be here at 9 AM first thing for the Sulaks tours, and then we'll go throughout our day. So just so the commission is reminded.
Thanks, city manager, and it's important that we show our support. They showed us a very good tour in Boyne City, and we saw a lot of their, we were there a long, long time. It was how long day was that?
Exhausting, too long.
16 hours or something like that, so we want to make sure we wear them out, but we've got some special guests coming, which are pretty exciting. We have, can we announce who is in town?
Yeah.
We tour with Senator Stabenow in the morning. She's also their senator as well. We also have State Senator John DeMoose coming, and then we have Mayor of City of Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario coming for our lunch presentation. So we'll have a lot of different perspectives and a lot of viewpoints, and helps us to show off our city. So if you see, are we gonna have a bus?
We will have a
We see people running around. It's people from Boyne City, Michigan, and some of our legislators, and we're showing them the city of Sault Ste. Marie. So it's pretty exciting to see. So hopefully every commissioner and I know the admin will be participating, so please be there. So, anybody have any questions for city manager on his lengthy report? All right, so we'll move on into item I, which is matters presented by the public. Is there anybody in the audience that would like to make any comments to the commission at this time? Sure. If you'd like to come forward and state your name and where you live for the record, not necessarily the...
Hey y'all, my name is Kavan and I live over on Brown Street. And this is not for a fella as tall as I am. Okay. Hi guys. Okay, so I work for like the historic homes. Like I work, you know, with the Historic Society. And one of the issues that we've kind of run into is funding. One of the things that I've noticed that has kind of peeved a few people off is the fact that our funding no longer comes from like a general fund. It now comes from the Osborne Trust. And that kind of constricts us a little bit because now we are having difficulty prioritizing both the historic homes and specifically when I was meeting with the Historic Development Commission earlier today, I looked at the budget or whatever, and it just seems like they were really constricted and they wouldn't have money for like other projects, and all of their money was being poured into keeping the historic homes running. And I want to address the fact that there's no money going to the Historic Development Commission and or the historic homes, or like all of the money is being poured into the historic homes and keeping them around, and there's no room for other things like advertising. More specifically, I believe that like when the reason I went to the meeting was to bring up the point of advertising and the fact that we need to advertise the historic homes because that would actually help us get more people going through there. Because I am particularly popular online and I've been getting people to show up But the issue is that people can't find it. And so I think that that is hurting us in a way that it isn't really hurting a lot of the other things like the Valley Camp or the Tower of History, because those things have signs. And so, yeah, my point is we ain't got no money, and I would like for them to get more money, and I would also like for, more specifically, for it to go to advertising.
Thank you for your comments, Kavan.
Oh, for sure.
Yep, appreciate it. Thanks
So what
for
do I
your-
do? So what do I do?
You could come meet with the city manager, I guess, on a.
That's
week
a
that
hard
would
man
be
to get a hold
Some
of.
point in time, and talk about the budget issues that we had and the reason that we did go through the trust for funding. But
Okay.
yeah,
Okay. Well, Brian, you will see me.
thanks, Kavan. Appreciate it. All right, anybody else in the public have any comments, questions? Moving on into item J, which is matters presented by the city commission. Commissioners, Commissioner Bahusta.
Yes, on behalf of Lynn Farnquist and Families Against Narcotics is holding an event tomorrow at 6 p.m. at the First Church of Christ. It is on their jail diversion program in Traverse City, and they're bringing speakers up from Traverse City. And so Lynn wanted me to take an opportunity to invite commission as well as anyone who's watching who would like to be part of that program. It is, again, tomorrow night, 6 p.m. at the First Church of Christ.
Thanks, Commissioner. Anybody else? Commissioner Bauer.
Your Honor, I move that we adjourn this meeting.
Support.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you.